I really like that it's just normal that Trump just deploys the military all over the United States. If Obama or Biden was just deploying the military offensively across the US, what would happen? You know what? Actually, what a stupid question for me to ask. We don't have to think what would happen. We already know what would happen. And half the states were ready to revolt when Biden was trying to use was it even the military to do border enforcement in Texas? How many Republican governors are like, we're going to join Abbott and send our police to go and help him to fight against the Biden immigration squad or whatever? They were going to lose their minds on that.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that.
Oh, so this isn't even like announced or is going to happen. This is like officially already done. Nice. What the f does he even think he's gonna do? Or he's just gonna start doing law enforcement with the National Guard and everything's gonna magically get better? Or is it gonna be like California where he says everything's fixed before the people even get out there? Or
very good people, but they're tough and they know what's happening and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled.
Well, okay, it seems like it's going down a lot, though. I don't know why they have these graphics. Oh, because it's CNN, sorry. Okay.
5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse.
What? Wait, what?
2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes through our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the...
I don't know if it's right. What is he saying? I don't know if that's right, but I'm going to say it because it sounds good. Jesus Christ, bro. Fucking kill me.
Our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is...
Dude, it's like the Homelander booby woman when he's like, no, not even. I don't even know. Look at how Trump pulls out his Crayola crayon graphs. Look at how Pam nods. Like, good job, honey. Look, watch her face.
Different cities throughout the world. Red is...
there you go. Good job. Nice.
Okay. The red is a place called Washington, D.C.
Kill me.
Look at these. Baghdad.
He sounds like a fucking retard. Why is that our go-to comparison? Is fucking Baghdad? What?
We doubled up on Baghdad.
Doubled up what?
Panama City, Brasilia. San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs.
Okay, wait, I don't want to make fun of it. Is Brasilia the name of a city in...
Costa Rica, Panama City, Brasilia.
Is Brasilia the name of a city in... Okay, because it might be, all right. Oh, that's the Brazil's capital. Okay, there you go, okay.
San Jose, Costa Rica.
It's called Brasilia? Why don't we have a capital called, like, Ameriquilla? That'd be sick.
Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like
All double and triple with what? What is he talking about?
double and triple?
I can't read this, sir. I can't read this. I don't... Is that DC on the left? I can't read this.
What they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so.
Live in places like that? Well, it sounds like those places are all better to live in if we're going by... Or does he mean live in DC? Like a place like that?
I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. DC, 41 per 100,000. Number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that.
It's like a Fox News infograph. The White House passing out these information packets ahead of President Trump's press conference, where he's expecting to announce more federal law enforcement officers at our nation's capital. Is that Sam Hyde? I'm just kidding. Arrested on a warrant out of Georgia at 16th Street and Marion Barry Avenue Southeast for cruelty to the elderly. Thank you. Oh. Okay.
That where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. Getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication.
Yeah.
There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers.
I checked the White House website. Their source is a tweet. Oh.
On crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster.
Disaster.
And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe.
Why is he allowed to say that? Why is he allowed to say that? Like you wouldn't believe. That's like not even that's not a real thing. Why does he never have to say anything for real? We'll go after this.
And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to just take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday.
I'm sorry, did I misunderstand the news? Did the land swaps already happen? Is it now Alaska Oblast? What? Okay.
I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially capital in the world. We always...
Beautiful, potentially capital. Dude, if this was a Biden speech, he would be cooked. He would be cooked.
sad. But people come
Since this is a Trump speech, there will be basically no mentions past like maybe 12 hours of him constantly fucking up.
from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designer said, well, we need a 1/4 of an inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be, Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast.
Kevin, you've been monitoring this very, very closely. What jumps out at you?
Yeah, and I think the president's steps here to federalize the D.C. police force certainly very significant. What we didn't hear from the president was how long that would last. You know, the statute that he's using, the D.C. Home Rule Act, allows for initial federalization for 48 hours before notifying Congress. He said that he
Just a couple weeks, I'm sure, 2 weeks, to see how things shape up.
was doing that. So beyond that, we don't know exactly how long it would last. The other thing that stuck out was the president raising open the possibility that he would use active duty troops as part of this effort, saying that they would be ready as needed to join the federal or National Guard to help support law enforcement in the city. And you really did hear the president paint quite a dystopian.
It's also like, it's important, I was saying this during the California protests, it's important that we have different police officers and different roles for the police in mind. We shouldn't be grouping all of them together. Like, there was a difference between the federal police, like ICE, that are deployed to California versus like your local police. Like, you ideally should have a better relationship with your local police or trust them a bit more maybe than federal police, unless the local police are real hard. And then like there's another level removed, which is like the military. Like, the military should never really be doing policing in the United States. This should only be done for exceptional circumstances, under exceptional circumstances. I don't know how much of the National Guard here is going to be doing the policing versus just the just Trump, I guess, like controlling the Capitol Police, but it's just not a good. It's not a good look. Like, just the military doing policing is just not something in the United States you ever typically want to see. It's just not a good thing.
Picture of Washington, D.C., saying that it was overtaken by violent gangs, by bloodthirsty criminals, using this imagery that doesn't necessarily comport with a lot of people's experience in this city, but also with what the actual numbers show. You know, statistics do show that violent crime in Washington.
Do you have a big relationship with the local police? I feel like people see federal and local as the same generally. Yeah, I know, but they shouldn't. They're not the same, right?
Is falling since reaching a peak in 2023. The president's aides dispute some of those figures. You heard the president come out saying that some of those statistics might have been cooked, but really when you look at the numbers, what the president is painting
They're
is
cooked, all right.
An image that doesn't necessarily match up with.
Does Washington genuinely have a problem, or is this normal Trump? I mean, like, DC has some rough areas. I don't know if they're even in the top 10 for violent crime rate cities, though. And I mean, it's been coming down, but all the violent crime in the U.S. I think has been coming down since the 90s or whatever.
With what the figures show, but also
like this year to year, I don't ever like year to year stuff. You should be looking over like a 10 or 20 year time horizon, but
with what a lot of people's experience in the city is. And so a significant step by the president certainly today.
All right, Kevin Liptak at the White House for us. Kevin, thank you very much.
When I was a kid, I thought as long as the news anchors didn't freak out, then things are normal. I think Americans think like this too, but the mainstream media is always going to report everything normally. Yeah, but the problem is when they start to freak out, then the right goes, oh, they have Trump derangement syndrome. And then that's it. Like, then the liberal media gets like so scared and like, oh, we don't have Trump derangement syndrome. Look at us. We're being fair. President Donald J. Trump has officially declared a crime emergency in the District of Columbia. Damn, there's just emergencies everywhere. Wait, what is the real reason for Trump's DC takeover? I just wanted to skip it. We don't need to retread all this. What are people assuming it's for?
Law firms to stand up and say, we're going to bring litigation. We're going to fight the president, as they were threatening Republican senators and members.
What is even going to come from this? What do you predict? I have no idea. I don't know why Trump is even doing this. He seems retarded. For protests? I mean, you can just protest in other cities, no? I don't know what the point. I don't even know like what the evil point of this would be. It just seems stupid.
This capital belongs to all Americans, and starting now, we're taking it back, and that's the angle. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was given the tall order of handling this, and he's here with me exclusively. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us tonight. So the president called this a public safety emergency, and you said we're going to start seeing the National Guard this week. Tell us more.
This week and in coming weeks. And we're going to work right alongside our law enforcement partners as force multipliers. This is what the American people voted for, Laura. This is what the common sense, clarity, strength. I hadn't heard that story from President Trump before, the story he told about his father, that he told him, hey, son, if you look at the front door of a restaurant and it's dirty, then I bet the kitchen, you can count on the fact that the kitchen is too. And I sat there thinking that's exactly right. If our capital city is a mess, if we can't control our capital city, then what does the rest of the country look like? And what signals does the rest of the country take from that? So just like we did in Los Angeles, alongside our federal law, we took a lot of criticism for 4,000 troops, 700 Marines.
They fixed crime in L.A. Clap us. Thank God. They fixed the crime in L.A. It only took them like 1 month. Hooray.
What we didn't get, there was no summer of love in 2020. In 2025, there was a summer of law enforcement, and we quelled the protests of the
Wait, what? Weren't the BLM riots happened under Trump, though? No?
attacks on ICE officers. We're going to help get D.C. under control by working with local officials who have been federalized, with federal officials who.
Are you saying that didn't happen in California? Did he think that that was going to is that the standard now? We assume that every single time there's a little bit of protest or rioting, it's going to become the BLM riots, the largest riots in all of U.S. history?
There's no summer of love in 2020. In 2025, there was a summer of law enforcement, and we quelled the protests of the attacks on ICE officers.
Oh my
We're going to help
God.
get D.C. under control by working with local officials who have been federalized, with federal officials who are coming in. The D.C. Guard's proud to be a part of it. Other states will contribute this week going into the weeks to come. Whatever's needed, the DOD will provide to make sure this is a safe city for those who live here, for those that work here, and the Americans who want to come visit here and love our capital city.
The question of martial law keeps getting raised by the left, that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, they want to impose martial law as authoritarians would. Mm-hmm. To that you say?
To that I say, look at Los Angeles. They said the exact same thing. Oh, look, 4,000 troops, California National Guard. Oh, look, the Marines. You can't put in the Marines. What? They were the troops available to ensure that we de-escalated the situation and didn't allow other lawbreakers to say, look, it's wide open. We can do whatever we want in these sanctuary cities. I was told, oh, you're going to lock up political opponents. You're going to go after Democrats, yada, yada. It's the same stuff every time, mischaracterizing our intentions. The intentions of this president is to establish law and order using legal and lawful and constitutional means, which he completely has. And you know what? You know why they don't like him? He's got the guts to do it. He's got the guts to say, I'm going to federalize the police that don't work. I'm going to bring in the National Guard. I'm going to bring in federal marshals. I'm going to bring in the park police.
How long will that be?
How long? How long? What is the?
Well, it costs money, right?
Sure,
It costs money, and the question is, are you there for a year? Are you there for 6 months? And when the troops pull out, what happens?
I would call this conditions-based. I would say it's a situation where we're here to support law enforcement. And the more we can free them up to do their job, the more effective they can be, the more we can work. I mean, this isn't my realm, but the justice system to make sure people who are arrested are actually locked up. That's why the president's talking about cashless bail in sanctuary cities. If you're illegal here in D.C., that's going to be a problem. So all of these things that apply to law and order are front and center for us. And I don't know, weeks, months, what will it take? That's the president's call. But we're going to be there for him to execute as swiftly as possible.
Will the National Guard be detaining Americans on American soil?
Under Title 32, which is the authorization they'll be using, they have broad latitude, but they're not going to be involved in law enforcement functions. They will be standing right alongside our federal agents like they were in Los Angeles. They're going to be proactive. If you take an action or a shot at them, there will be a consequence.
So the crime is being committed, in other words, and National Guardsmen.
So they're just going to fucking stand there? That's what we're paying all this money for them to fucking stand there?
Sees a crime being committed, then what?
They can come alongside and assist law enforcement.
What if law enforcement isn't on
the corner? I will have their back to ensure they can take the necessary action to protect citizens of D.C. and to protect themselves. So
other really interesting news over the weekend was the news about the cartels in Mexico. The Sinaloa crime cartel and many others have wreaked havoc on the United States. You covered it when you were a host on Fox. Mm-hmm. You see it up close and personal now. Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is saying this is not welcome in our country. You kind of see what she has to do perhaps there as well. What is your target, and how deep into Mexico do you intend to go?
Well, we're not going to comment on any of the reporting for the New York Times. Sorry. I wish they had a little bit more commitment and patriotism for the country about what they report on a whole slew of levels.
Yeah, saying Trump secretly signed a directive to go into Mexico.
I wish the media had more commitment to patriotism about the country. They're not your fucking PR firm. Jesus Christ.
That material like that, true or not, should never be released. Ultimately, the president ran on designating these organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. We spent 20 years battling foreign terrorists in other countries. Now we've got them in our own hemisphere, poisoning our people with drugs, with gangs, with violence.
Never been this bad before.
How y'all doing today? Y'all staying in that trouble? You got your ID on you, chick?
No, I live right here.
Cool.
It's a cigarette. Y'all get a call or something about right here?
No, so we're doing checks, keeping everybody safe down here, right? You heard of the federal surge that Donald Trump's putting out?
No.
Right. You don't follow like
No.
Code 3 or anything like that people are putting up. All right. So yeah, Trump's got all federal agencies kind of coming together for 7 days and going out. I'm familiar with trying to stop the violent crime, all kind of stuff. So we're out here contacting people, talking to them, right? Quality of life offenses, smoking, drinking in public, right? Can't happen outside, right? Most people know that. So we're contacting people, trying to advise them of the law, so they learn, right? And then if there's other stuff going on where it turns into there's multiple agencies or somebody, there's shootings and things like that. There's extra hands there, right? So we're just out here trying to inform people and educate people. It's not like we're trying to just go grab people and ruin someone's life over a joint or something like that, right?
I only asked because when you walked up at the moment, you walked up, you only asked me.
Yeah, well, it smelled like the odor of marijuana, burnt marijuana in the air, right? And you're the only guy that had something lit in your hand. I didn't flash right, so I didn't realize it was just a cigarette. So that's on me. I appreciate you understanding and not getting shit with me. All right, so just know, right? Learn, teach, tell your boys, like, yo, everybody's out. From FBI to the police. So do your thing, let them know. Don't be smoking outside, don't be drinking out.
I'd be real careful on that one. We're not trying to ruin anyone's life. Like, despite what losers online will tell you, there are nice cops that don't give a fuck. Even if it's illegal, if you have weed, they'll make you toss it or whatever. They don't care. But if you're sitting outside your home and cops are walking up just asking questions about, like, is that weed? I'd be real worried that if you admitted to it here, if you have no reason to, if you admitted to it, does that give them the right to toss your entire house? Could they come in and do a whole, like, I would never admit to shit like this. Like, if you get pulled over on a traffic stop and you're like, then it's like, hopefully the cop is nice, but they're just walking up to you on your porch here, that'd be hyper sus.
Sorry, because Donald Trump is tired of it. People come to visit. I didn't know that. You didn't know smoking in public? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, the rest of the because in Maryland is recreational use. I know. Yeah, so DC is recreational use as well, right? But you can legally possess up to 2 ounces. You can gift an ounce to your boy, right? So if you had 2 ounces, he said he needed a zip, you can give him a zip, but you can't smoke outside. You don't.
Weed is legal in DC unless there's something really special about the District of Columbia. It doesn't matter if it's legal in a particular state. In states, it doesn't. For federal cops, federal police, it's still federally illegal. So a Fed can, I believe, arrest you for weed, even if you're in a state where in the state it's legal. A state cop won't arrest you, but I believe a federal officer can, unless there's like a really special thing going on in DC where it's not that way.
I only asked because when you walked up at the moment, you walked up, you only asked me.
Yeah, well, it smelled like the odor of marijuana, burnt marijuana in the air, right? And you're the only guy that had something lit in your hand. I didn't flash right, so I didn't realize it was just a cigarette. So that's on me. I appreciate you understanding and not getting shit with me. All right, so just know, right? Learn, teach, tell your boys, like, yo, everybody's out. From FBI to the police. So do your thing, let them know. Don't be smoking outside, don't be drinking outside. Because Donald Trump is tired of it. People come to visit. I didn't know that. You didn't know.
The cop just said it was legal for recreational use. And when the would you take legal advice for a cop? Why would you ever be so retarded as to take legal advice for the cop? And half the videos you see where the cops are out of pocket, they don't even know the laws they're enforcing, bro. Why the would you take a cop's advice on that? Talk to a lawyer or something, or look up, shit like that. These might be, though, but like if these are like U.S. Capitol Police, like I don't think these are feds because their vests say police. I think these might just be like state Capitol Police, in which case they wouldn't arrest you, I don't think, for having weed if it is legal in the District of Columbia. But if they're feds, I don't think it matters if they're feds. It doesn't matter if your state doesn't have criminal charges anymore for marijuana. Federal police can still arrest you, I think.
Smoking in public.
These are park police? Okay.
Yeah, the rest of the yeah, so DC is recreational use as well, right? But you can legally possess up to 2 ounces. You can gift an ounce to your boy, right? So if you had 2 ounces and he said he needed a zip, you can give him a zip, but you can't smoke outside.
These cops kind of sound chill, though. I mean, it doesn't sound like... I mean, I don't think anything bad happened here, no? I think this is okay. Assuming they're not, like, trying to trap him or something. This seems fine. I don't know if, like, smoking on your porch is illegal, if that counts as, like, outside or public. I'm not sure. So I think, like, public intox or whatever. I don't know how that works.
Resistance in D.C. is already forming on the ground, and I could not be more proud to see these images. Only hours after Donald Trump made two huge announcements. Number one, that he was going to mobilize the National Guard into D.C. in an unprecedented and unnecessary action. But then two, he was federalizing the D.C. police force, all 4,000 cops, so they were all under his control. They were wrapped around his finger. It was a clear consolidation of power for zero reason. Trump claims there's been an insane spike in crime, but he points to one random case that happened last week of a burglary and then tries to ignore the decades of data showing crime dropping. So once more, this is unnecessary and a dangerous consolidation of power, and we need to speak out. Let's walk through some of the signs that we see on the ground. We'll walk through some of the videos of protests that we see forming, and then we'll talk about what the mayor, Muriel Bowser, is saying right now. First, let's start here. No Trump Gestapo in D.C. In the back, you see no ICE, no National Guard, free D.C. We heard chants of free D.C. This reads, Trump's lying about D.C. to distract you, release the Epstein files. The bottom one says, DC says freedom, not fascism. I mean, DC is supposed to have been a beacon of hope and democracy, but now there's a dark rain cloud above it, and it is a distraction. No wars have been ended. No deals have been cut. Donald Trump is exposing himself as likely maybe a pedophile, and day by day his approval rating continues to drop. So yeah, he mobilizes the National Guard. In response, you see protests like this one immediately pop up. Watch this clip.
Free DC! Free DC! Free DC! Free DC!
We saw a bunch of powerful speakers. Then, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, gave a speech very quickly. Make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mocker channel. Make sure you're following along. And if you live in or around Omaha, Nebraska, I'm doing an in-person event
Whoa! Omaha mention.
in Omaha, Nebraska on August 23rd. Be there or be square, or you can watch it live. Just make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mocker feed below for more pro-democracy events. Here's a clip of Mayor Muriel Bowser being asked, hey, the president threatened to use not just the National Guard, but the military. And Bowser says something very powerful, that you can't weaponize the military against U.S. citizens.
Can I ask, the president threatened to use not just the National Guard, but military, to bring the United States military, federal troops into the District of Columbia if needed. Can you respond to that threat? I mean, we're in uncharted waters already. Yeah, a lot of people are seeing this as the first step in an assault on home rule, which the president has threatened. He's been making these threats since last year, and now he's carrying through with them. There's no reason to believe he won't go further. What do you say to the president about his threats to bring the military, not just the National Guard, the military?
We don't, and I think I speak for all Americans, we don't believe it's legal to use the American military against American citizens on American soil. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's a fairly widely held fact. And so, but we've seen them move, I think, the active military into California. So it's a question. We've seen active military on the borders of D.C. some years ago.
I mean, even if you want to go back to Trump's first term, the signs were so clear. People around Donald Trump, I mean, generals that had served for decades, rose the alarms when Donald Trump floated the idea of mobilizing forces and shooting American citizens during the BLM protest back in 2020. Trump has, since he entered politics, had this fascistic urge in him to not to shake up the system to help the American people. That would be different. If he came in and shook up the system and, rigged it for the American people, that would be different. But he's rigging it for himself and his buddies. He's becoming more rich, more powerful, while the American people continue to struggle. As Joe Walsh points out, only a tyrant would use the American military against American citizens on American soil. Only a fascist would do that. Only a traitor would do that. And if Trump does that, he's declaring war on the American people, and they'll have no choice but to fight back. You know what's insane to me, what's mind-boggling, is 5 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago, on January 6th, when people were storming the Capitol and attacking the country, Trump refused to mobilize the National Guard. In fact, he sat back, did nothing, closed his eyes, and let it happen while egging it on Twitter. People were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," trying to destroy the country in D.C., beating up cops, killing cops. And Trump pardons all of them and then mobilizes the National Guard for no reason. How can anybody deny that this is purely fascistic, that he's mobilizing the National Guard for no crime, but then pardoning the actual criminal?
I don't even know did we ever figure out what the method is here to the madness? Why is he doing this? I don't even know even from an evil perspective, I don't know what he's trying to do. Distraction? It's just okay.
Criminals. In this right here, we see some more protesters. This says Trump's lying about DC to destroy. That is exactly the energy that we need right now. And let me just point one more thing out. This article from the Washington Post reads, the decision to take over the Metropolitan Police Department and deploy 800 National Guard troops comes as the president has been slamming America's cities as places where crime is out of control, despite 2 years of declines that have brought homicide levels in many major cities to their lowest levels in decades. Trump is gaslighting the American people, saying
what is let's even assume it works, that they deploy the National Guard or they do whatever, and then they bring crime down. Are they just going to deploy the National Guard forever? Is he just going to stay there forever? Or does he think that when they go away, that all the crime is going to be gone? It's a one-time thing? I don't know.
Prices are low when they're high, saying that crime is high when it's not as high as necessary to deploy the National Guard. It's all a pretext for more fascistic power grabs, and it's terrifying. We need to make sure we're pushing back and pointing this out. Here's another protest clip.
Protect home rule! 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 Protect home rule!
I like how there are massive signs in the background. I can't read the full things, but it looks like it says, "Free DC, release the Epstein files." Very true. Why take over a, not actual state, but why take over DC?
I really like that it's just normal that Trump just deploys the military all over the United States. I hate to do this. But put the shoe on the other foot. If Obama or Biden was just deploying the military offensively across the U.S., what would happen? You know what? Actually, what a stupid question for me to ask. We don't have to think what would happen. We already know what would happen. Half the states were ready to revolt when Biden was trying to use was it even the military to do border enforcement in Texas? How many governors, how many Republican governors are like, we're going to join Abbott and send our police to go and help him to fight against the Biden immigration squad or whatever? They were going to lose their fucking minds on that shit. They were losing their minds on that. And then meanwhile, Trump is like, oh, California, I'm going to nationalize your National Guard and let's go. And it's like, oh, the governor didn't ask for that. That's kind of weird. All right. Oh, DC. Okay. ICE funding in the hundreds, like 187 billion over what, 10 years? Like, why? Okay.
See, with military force to distract from the Epstein files unless you were very, very guilty.
Well, look at him. How much money do you think it costs? Like, thank God, all the crack dealers that are using drones to deliver planes can now be intercepted, or deliver drugs are being intercepted by our... bro, kill me. I don't even know. Jesus Christ. DC residents say Trump is too involved in pulling on National Guard deployment. I mean, DC is a very Democratic area, right? That's not surprising at all, no?
I hate this whole idea. I think there's some idea out there that Trump's somehow a conquering hero, but he's in fact is welcomed in Washington, D.C.
That's not the case.
We're starting to see what the president's takeover of policing in Washington, D.C. looks like. National Guard troops arrived today. The Pentagon says about 800 have been activated in support of law enforcement agencies. Today, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt told reporters they made 23 arrests on charges ranging from fare evasion to homicide, and their role will be reevaluated, she said, in 30 days. She was asked about plans for other cities, which the president named yesterday, and she did not walk it back.
Look, the president is speaking about what he'd like to see take place in other cities around the country. Right now, this administration is focused on making D.C. safe and beautiful again. When the time comes, we'll talk about that.
Among those other cities the president mentioned in passing yesterday, which we should note are all governed by Democratic mayors, is Baltimore. Joining us now is Maryland's Democratic Governor Wes Moore. Governor, it's good to see you. You've said that the president's decision to deploy the National Guard, you called it deeply dangerous. What's your message to citizens who say regardless of...
So wait, the law says that the National Guard or the state National Guards can only be controlled by the president with the consent or request of the governor. And that never happened in California. Did we just move on from that? Did we just not give a fuck about that? Or is that another thing that's working its way through the courts? Or that case is in court now?
Crime data or...
It's on day 3 of bench trial. Okay.
Deploy the National Guard. You called it deeply dangerous. What's your message to citizens who say regardless of crime data or trends, this makes them feel safer?
Well, I'm embarrassed. I'm angered. And frankly, I'm heartbroken for the members of the National Guard who are asked to take on this mission. As someone who has served this country overseas and who has led soldiers in combat, and as someone who is not just the 63rd governor of Maryland, but also the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard, I take very seriously about how, when, and why I deploy members of our National Guard in cases of emergency and in true crises. And I will...
Trump's strategy is to just do so much shit courts can't even keep up. I mean, I guess, but it's not even coherent. It's just so stupid. I hate this for him.
Not authorize the usage of Maryland National Guard forces for missions that I do not deem to be either mission critical or mission aligned. And what we are seeing right now...
you don't deploy the National Guard for just crime enforcement, right? It's just...
This distracting away from the fact that Donald Trump's policies have caused unemployment to go up, have caused people to lose their health care, has caused children to be able to lose their food benefits, and he's now using this as a tool. He's using military personnel.
How does the law even function in these situations? If he deploys the National Guard and they listen, how can anyone stop Trump? The issue is, remember, what I said before is that checks and balances only works as a system when everybody is playing by the rules. If people are going to not play by the rules, I mean, if the judiciary doesn't play by the rules, it's kind of awkward. If people in Congress don't play by the rules, it's kind of weird. If the executive doesn't play by the rules, you are supremely f***ed, right? That's your big issue. And right now, the executive is not playing by the rules, and they're the ones that take all the action.
Citizen soldiers as a cudgel and as a tool to be able to advance his political purposes, because if he really wants to address the issue of violent crime, he just needs to look at what we've done in the state of Maryland over the past 2.5 years, where when I first became the governor in 2022, Baltimore was averaging almost a murder a day. Now, the homicide rate in Baltimore is nearly a 50-year low, and we have watched how the state of Maryland has essentially helped to lead the country in drops in violent crime.
Hey, wait, why is this hotline here?
In drops in non-fatal shootings, in drops in carjackings. So if he truly wants to understand how to lower crime, he should...
Aren't checks and balances for people who don't play by the rules? No! I'm repeating that for the 50 millionth time. Checks and balances are not for rule breakers. Checks and balances exist for people who are playing by the rules to have a fun and enriching experience in government, all playing the game with each other. Checks and balances in the U.S. federal government are like a rule set for a board game so that everybody has a fun and fair time. They are not there for rule breakers. If you break the rules and you're the executive branch, you can basically do whatever the fuck you want.
pay attention to what we're doing in the state of Maryland. And I did it without ever having to once operationalize our National Guard to do municipal policing.
I mean, you said Maryland has reduced its violent crime rate. According to the FBI crime database, Baltimore is still among the top 3 big cities for violent crime, isn't it, along with Memphis and Detroit?
Well, I've been very clear that the number one priority.
Why is it not as bad for Congress or the judiciary? Don't Congress pass laws? I feel like they have more collective power than the president. If a judge looks at you and says, you're guilty because I say so, and I think you should get executed right now, well, I mean, the judge can look at you and say it, and you go, okay, well, that's kind of unhinged. And then what, right? The cops might look at you and the judge and say, oh, yeah, the judge seems kind of crazy. The state legislature might look at the judge and be like, I don't think we authorize that. That's kind of crazy, right? Let's say that the state legislature, let's say you get like some crazy guy in the state legislature is like, oh, we should kill all black people, right? Well, the other legislators are looking like, oh, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of weird. You know, the judge would look at the dude like they wouldn't even be able to pass anything. But then let's say that the governor or the mayor who controls the cops tells the cop, hey, go arrest this guy and fuck him up. Well, now you're fucked, right? The problem is that the executive is the body of the government that enforces law. And when the enforcement mechanism is wielded improperly, everybody else relies on the enforcement mechanism at the end of the day to enforce the will of the legislature, right, of the Congress by interpretation of the judiciary. So when the enforcement mechanism is fucked up, everything is fucked, and there are no stopping powers on the other two. There's no checks and balances on your enforcement mechanism. It's not possible to do it.
You said Maryland has reduced its violent crime rate. According to the FBI crime database, Baltimore is still among the top 3 big cities for violent crime, isn't it, along with Memphis and Detroit?
Well, I've been very clear that the number one priority for our administration is making sure that people can feel safe in their neighborhoods and safe in their communities. And if one person does not feel safe in their neighborhood and their community, that is one too many. But it's the reason that we've done things like making historic investments in local law enforcement, making historic investments in predictive analytics and technologies, and making sure that if someone commits a violent crime, particularly with a handgun, I want them in handcuffs in 24 hours. And making sure we're making commitments and partnership with the mayor, with our county executives, with our local community members, and making sure we're stopping the retaliatory nature of violence. And so while we are very encouraged by the numbers that we have seen, we've seen how the homicide rate in the state of Maryland is down upwards of 20% since I have been the governor, that the homicide rate in Baltimore City is now reaching 50-year lows. I know we still have work to do, but I also know how to use the right tools for the right mission. And usage of the National Guard is not the right tools to be able to address what we're seeing and the encouraging progress that we are seeing in the city of Baltimore.
The governor of New York sent the National Guard into New York City to the subways, and she says that was successful. The crime actually...
There are other executives in the United States. The president is the chief executive of the federal police force and the military. The states could fight back theoretically. Governors are the executives of the state police and mayors are executives of the city police. But now you're in like civil war where different militaries are fighting with the police forces, and it's not good.
Actually went down in the subways. There are other groups that say, well, they were already heading on the way down when they were sent in. Would you ever foresee a role for the National Guard in even just making people, feel safer on the streets or in the subways?
I've mobilized the National Guard since I have been the governor. But I also know it's a weight that I take very personally, and it's a weight that I take very seriously. Because the people of Maryland know, my background is not as a politician. My background is as a soldier. And I take how we use our citizen soldiers very seriously. And it's important for people to remember that every time you mobilize the National Guard, there's 2 things that become important. One, there is a cost to it, and it's not an unlimited cost. And so you have to understand that when we're utilizing the National Guard for things like municipal policing, that means that's National Guard and resources that are not being used towards things like natural disasters. That's not being towards things like utilization of the National Guard for foreign conflicts. And also the second thing to remember is this. The members of our National Guard, these are citizen soldiers. These are people with other jobs. These are people who have just chosen to take on this additional responsibility and raise their hands to serve the people of their states because the state knows how and when to use them wisely. And so the people of Maryland know that while I will be unafraid to utilize or mobilize members of the National Guard when there's a case of emergency, I will also not use it as just some type of political ploy or some political tool.
Destiny, is there a real reason the executive has to be its own branch rather than integrating elements of enforcement into the other 2 branches? It seems the issue here is the concentration of lethal force in one branch. Well, the idea behind the U.S. system of governance is you want to have an agonizingly slow, methodical approach to creating and implementing law. Okay, that's what Congress is for. That's why the process is so mucky. You've got your representatives, you've got your upper house, a Senate, both of them have equal power. President has veto power. There's just a lot of work to get something passed in law. But once the thing is law, you want a single, non-deliberative body that is enforcing the law. The law should be enforced without question in the manner that the executive deems fit based on the law passed from Congress, right? Having conflicting executives, the conflict should happen in the deliberative process when you're crafting the law. But once the law is implemented, passed by the Congress, you want it to be enforced swiftly and vigorously at that point. So that's why I think when the Founding Fathers were considering other forms of governance and they were looking to the past to see what had worked and what hadn't worked, I want to say it was even in Greece where there might have been multiple executives, like the executives who were usually executives in different areas. They weren't the executive at the same time, or they weren't executives, governing the same place. It's important to have that singular person who enforces the law. As National Guard troops arrive, uncertainty over command of D.C. police, the White House and D.C. leadership have each tried to assert that they are in control of the force, even as they emphasize cooperation and shared priorities. The weird thing, too, and it seemed like this was recognized yesterday when we were listening to the news talk about this, is they were saying that, was it for J.D. Vance? Or no, it might have been for Hegseth. He was saying, like, well, yeah, they're not going to arrest anybody, but they're there in case they get shot at, because they're not allowed to arrest people, and issued officers a far-reaching mandate to do whatever the hell they want to curb crime. Yet it remained unclear what new directives, if any, D.C. police would receive from their new federal managers. That's for the National Guard, not for the state Capitol Police or the D.C. Police, to be clear. Florida's new policy for senior drivers. Uh-oh. Ultimately, the chain of command is as such: the President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, our DEA Administrator, Terry Cole, who she said is in charge of the department and is working with the chief to ensure that law enforcement officers are allowed to do their jobs in the city. DEA Administrator? I don't think that's in chain of command for police or National Guard stuff related to D.C. Maybe they're just saying in general who's going to work with them, I guess. I don't know. Defense Department officials said a small number of National Guard members have been mobilized, with more expected in coming days. About 800 are expected to be part of the mission. I also love how this is a direct contradiction on the January 6th. Remember, Bowser didn't want any National Guard troops. We can't send them. The state capitol said that they didn't want any. We can't do it. That's what they said, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, oh, actually, we are going to do it. We don't give a fuck what they say. We're doing it. I was like, oh, okay. God, I hate the stupid notes and the fucking... What the fuck even does this say? Safe, baguette, talk to a command, control, supervising, safe, beautiful? Is that what this is supposed to say? Task force? Okay. We might read that Hassan piece later. I don't know how much I care, but I've seen this. People keep posting this. My jobs are many right now, and part of it is just practically managing us through this crisis.
As we mentioned,
John, thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
Why are we doing the Twitter charts? Bro, our government is cooked.
Is talking right now in Washington, D.C., pointing out those who have been affected and killed by violent crimes in Washington, D.C. She's right now talking about teen crime. Listen.
Not solved. But what this makes clear to me is that there is a whole community that is suffering because of the violent crime in this district. And anyone who wants to tell me the crime is down and that we don't need an emergency focus on crimes of violence, all they need to do is take a look at this and talk to the loved ones and the family members.
People should ask conservatives. This is what I want to hear at these congressional hearings or whatever, or when you guys are doing your, media interviews or whatever. You should ask them, just curious conservatives, is there anything in this country right now that's not like a national emergency? Because so far, fentanyl coming in from the borders is a national emergency. Even from Canada, our trade deficits are national emergencies. Venezuela somehow is a national emergency. I guess crime is a national emergency. Is there anything that's not a national emergency right now?
Of these individuals, all shot and killed long before their time. Now, over here are the individuals who were shot and killed under the age of 20, all teenagers in 2025. And the number here is 16. Again, all members of the minority community here. I don't know how many of these cases have been solved, but what I can tell you is, again, it's guns on the streets. It's individuals who are not concerned about accountability, who don't have any reason to fear law enforcement. I am here today to tell you that on behalf of all of these victims, all of these families, that they're going to be accountable, that we are going to make a difference, and that we are going to make sure that law enforcement is focused on these innocent, now silent victims of crime in the district.
100,000.
Anywhere else? All I know is we rank in deaths. 2 years ago, we were one of the fourth highest. We were the fourth highest in the United States. I don't need any more statistics.
Oh, my God.
All I need are people to recognize that these were vibrant human beings cut down because of illegal guns. I guarantee you that every one of these shootings was with an illegal gun. All right. And I guarantee you that every one of these individuals was shot and killed by someone who felt that they were never going to be caught. And I want to send them.
I think most people that murder people feel like they're not going to be caught murdering somebody. That's kind of the point of doing crime, right? You don't think you're going to get caught doing it, generally speaking, right?
Message that we are going to catch you, that we are going to change the laws, that if you're 14, 15, 16, 17, we're going to bring you into the justice system. No more of this DC, council, if they're under 16 or if they're under 19 or if they're under 25, we'll give them probation. No more. I'm done with that. And that's why a judge, and you're tired of hearing about me say this, that's why a judge gave a 19-year-old 2-3 weeks ago, and I wrote an op-ed piece, gave a 19-year-old probation, and I understand it's 2 years probation to go to college with no.
Op-ed. What is she talking about? 19-year-old chest gun. Washington, D.C., USA. A 19-year-old former college football player who shot a man in the chest on a crowded metro bus in March walked free from court this month after a judge suspended his entire prison sentence under Washington, D.C.'s Youth Rehabilitation Act. Jeffrey Peaks pleaded guilty to felony counts of aggravated assault while armed and possession of a firearm during a crime of violence after video showed him pulling out an unregistered handgun and shooting the victim on the bus. The victim survived after being treated by EMS at the scene, but D.C. Superior Court Judge Rainey Branch stunned prosecutors by suspending Peaks' entire 4-year prison sentence and 3 years of supervised release. Instead sentencing him only to probation under the Youth Rehabilitation Act. Okay. 4-year. Okay. When she said this initially, I thought this guy shot and killed somebody, or that this guy had a huge prison sentence. But he had a 4-year prison sentence and 3 years of supervised release. Okay. And sentencing him only to probation under the Youth Rehabilitation Act. The YRA gives judge broad discretion when sentencing defendants who were under 24 when their crimes were committed, allowing for alternatives to incarceration, except in the most serious cases like murder. Defendants sentenced under this act can also have their crimes shielded from public view and potential employers if they meet court conditions. The lenient sentence enraged interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, the one we were just watching, who issued a scathing statement about the case.
The moment brought terror to a crowded D.C. Metro bus in March. Passenger dives for
Jesus.
cover. Family rushes their toddler to safety. Video obtained by WUSA 9 shows 19-year-old Javari Peaks, a one-time college football player, pulling out an unregistered handgun and shooting a man in the chest. EMS treated the victim
Why?
at the scene, and he survived. Peaks pled guilty and was sentenced earlier this month to felony counts of aggravated assault while armed and possession of a firearm during a
Aggravated assault while armed. You don't even get like attempt murder for that, or what? What were the underlying facts, or what changed this? I'm so confused. He just turned around and shot a dude for no reason. What the?
Violence. But the judge stunned prosecutors, setting the shooter free at sentencing. In fact, 19-year-old Javari Peaks walked away with only probation under a law that's unique to D.C. It's called the Youth Rehabilitation Act. The Youth Rehabilitation Act gives judges huge discretion when sentencing anyone who was under age 24 when their crime was committed, including no jail time, except in the most...
I mean, like, this is kind of unhinged, kind of, but this guy was only going to be sentenced to 4 years in prison. I feel like even that's crazy. If he just turns around and shoots a dude for no reason.
Serious cases like murder. The Metro bus shooter's sentence enraged interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro.
We are not going to tolerate that anymore.
In a statement, she told WUSA 9, D.C. will not be safe until judges hold violent offenders accountable by putting them in jail. Why is she wrong?
Well, jail doesn't make people less violent. We know that it makes people more violent.
But Vita...
Okay, let him go be violent in jail. What the
Johnson, a former D.C. public defender and Georgetown law professor, says YRA is a critical tool in rehabilitating young offenders in need of a second chance.
And I think that's what's great about the Youth Act. It allows the judge to use that context and to make a decision. The Youth Act doesn't require a judge to give someone probation.
In her ruling, Judge Rainey Branch cited Peaks' age, no prior criminal record, and strong family support as reasons for suspending the shooter's prison sentence.
Like, there's a collection of facts that would make me sympathetic to that. Like, if he carried a gun because he thought he needed to for protection, even if it's unlicensed, and then he gets into a scuffle with somebody and it's kind of the other guy's fault, and in the course of this, like, he pulls out his gun and shoots a dude who probably shouldn't have shot, and he gets like in trouble for it. It's like, maybe we are a little lenient here. I don't understand this, though. It seems like the guy just like 180 no scopes a dude on the bus for no reason and then runs. Well, I don't understand what are the... Does the judge release? Is there like a statement anywhere where we can read the judge's statements on this? There must be.
Say video of the shooting also showed the victim, the man without a backpack, harassing the shooter, who was wearing a medical mask, in the minutes leading up to the shooting.
Okay, maybe there was more here on this? Oh shit, hold on.
Record and strong family support as reasons for suspending the shooter's prison sentence. Investigators say video of the shooting also showed the victim, the man without a backpack, harassing the shooter, who
Okay, so shooter guy, this is the guy who got shot.
was wearing a medical mask in the minutes leading up to the shooting, as Peaks seemingly tried to avoid the confrontation. But Pirro denounced the judge's decision, writing, despite...
Is there more? Defense attorney Albert Amisa told D.C. Superior Court Judge Rainey Brandt on April 28th that his client, Javarie Peaks, intends to accept a plea agreement offered by the prosecution. As soon as the prosecutor provides the necessary paperwork, Peaks, 19, is charged with assault with intent to kill. Assault with intent to kill? Isn't that an attempted murder? Maybe that's just in D.C. how it's written, I guess. While armed, aggravated assault while armed, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm. Why? Because he held it in each arm? What is that? Why 2 counts? During a crime of violence. The charges stem from his alleged involvement in a non-fatal shooting at the intersection of 22nd Street and Minnesota Avenue. I see on March 8th, 1 individual sustained injuries from the incident. According to arrest documents, a Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority bus driver testified as seeing the defendant shoot the victim in the chest, then exit the bus and run away down the street. Court documents state that WMATA surveillance footage from inside the bus before the shooting shows the victim talking to an individual identified as Peak, who blocks him from leaving his seat, holds onto his backpack, follows him between the back and front of the bus, and pushes him. The prosecutor told the court that the plea agreement will require Peaks to plead guilty to aggravated assault, while armed, in possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. In return, the prosecution will dismiss all other charges related to the case and will waive an enhancement for the charges, or to the charges for committing a crime of violence against a WMATA passenger. According to the prosecutor, that enhancement would have increased the length of Peaks' prison sentence by 1.5 months.
Our request.
Is there like full footage of this somewhere? Does anybody have anything else?
For significant jail time, a D.C. Superior Court judge refused to incarcerate Peaks. To make D.C. safe again, there must be serious consequences for these heinous crimes.
As a condition of his probation under the Youth Rehabilitation Act, Javarie Peaks has to stay in school and get a college degree. We contacted his attorney for comment. We'll let you know if we hear back.
Is there? I'm so curious if there's full. Is there full footage?
Free tools for campaigns.
I'm curious what it looked like prior, other than just that one thing. Like this article is written, I feel like that's a really important. I feel like that was a really important part of the story that was left out. Like even in the article, in her ruling, Judge Branch cited Peaks' age, lack of prior criminal record, and strong family support as reasons for the suspended sentence. Okay, but also apparently the person was harassing him. I feel like that's kind of important to bring up, no? The judge also noted that Peaks' cousin had been robbed on public transportation 5 months earlier, causing anxiety and paranoia while using transit. Investigators say bus surveillance video showed the victim harassing Peaks in the minutes before the shooting, as the defendant appeared to be trying to avoid confrontation. But legal experts are divided on the sentence. Nobody has a full video? Okay. I mean, it makes more, even if you disagree with it, it makes more sense. She's presenting this in a really unhinged manner. Well, the video also of just him shooting also looks unhinged if you just see the shooting. Oh, shooter who injured stranger on a metro bus in Washington. Oh, but guilty. The victim began talking to Peaks while they were seated across from each other. When the defendant stood up to walk, the victim momentarily blocked him from proceeding. After a few seconds, the victim walked toward the front of the bus where the defendant was standing. Peaks and the victim then continued to move around the bus for the next several minutes. At 9:45 p.m., the victim attempted to push the defendant off the bus, at which point the defendant briefly exited the bus before boarding again and walking past the victim toward the back of the bus. Within approximately a minute at 9:46 p.m., while the defendant was standing at the front of the bus near the bus operator and the victim was behind him in the middle of the bus, the defendant asked the bus operator if he could get off. As soon as the bus operator opened the doors, the defendant reached into his left jacket pocket, spun around and shot the victim, who was approximately 2 feet away, one time in the chest. The defendant then ran off the bus and away from the area. Yeah, I mean, it's not good. You shouldn't be shooting people, obviously, but okay, this guy was... I feel like the guy who got shot was on some shit as well. I'm curious what the footage looks like, but all right. Vindicated? No, I mean, like, he probably shouldn't have shot the guy. That's not good. But the video made it look like, and the way that she described it was literally just, like, if the guy was white, this is like every conservative's fantasy. Some black hoodlum is harassing you on a bus, and you bravely, spin shoot him and hop off.
hearing about me say this. That's why a judge gave a 19-year-old 2-3 weeks ago, and I wrote an op-ed piece, gave a 19-year-old probation, and I understand it's 2 years probation to go to college with no mandate, for getting on a public bus with an illegal gun, shooting an individual in the chest, which to me is intent to kill. And he walked away, after we convicted him, he walked away with no jail time. They want to say, we want to seal convictions after 5 years. If I'm a mother, and thank God my kids are older, if I'm a mother, I want to know if a nanny has an assault conviction. If I'm an employer, I want to know if this person has been convicted of larceny or petty larceny. Or if, say, I'm not in a public school, but I got a private, like, teaching a tennis group. I need to know if this guy's a predator, a pedophile. Everything about the D.C. Council's focus is defendant-oriented. I'm oriented to these people, and the people of the district are as well.
You just walked through the...
I mean, are we saying that because it kind of sounds like, I don't know. I don't think about this a lot. So, like, if you have a criminal record, everybody has access to it at all points in time, and then your shit can be forever, and you're just never going to get hired. But, I mean, maybe there's an argument that some people shouldn't have some jobs, depending on what kind of crimes they've committed. I don't know.
As a D.C. resident of 15 years, I lived on Capitol Hill. I witnessed so many muggings and so much theft. I lost track. I was carjacked. I have murders on my Ring camera and mass shootings.
What? Where the does this guy live, like, outside the Gotham's Most Wanted mansion? What the
I witnessed a woman on my block get held up at gunpoint for $20, and my house was set ablaze in an arson with my infant child inside.
Bro, what kind of are you getting up to that all this crime is happening to you? What the?
And so to any reporter that says and lies that D.C. is a safe place to live and work, let me just say this. Thank you.
Thank you.
We completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. We have to go back to how we got here, though. In 2020, the D.C. City Council passed an enormous amount of legislation that handcuffs police officers, exposes them to administrative, civil, and even criminal liability, even when they do their jobs properly. And now, 5 years later, our authorized sworn strength is 4,000 sworn police officers. We currently have 3,180. So we have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. And the way the department makes up for that gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime every year. So the fact that we need help.
Wait, what's the meme? Meme with eyes turning to the side. What am I thinking of? Did every single DC cop, when the guy's like, I can't believe they're forced to work all this overtime, and it's like, yeah, bruh, yeah, that's horrible. Who fought for that? I'm just curious. Maybe that wasn't part of what they fought for. I don't know. Just my Omaha experience, emergency services love overtime. Because I don't know if pension spiking is still a thing, but they like crazy.
From federal law enforcement and maybe even the National Guard, it shouldn't come as a surprise, and we agree with that. I think one of the issues here, though, is that we all know that's going to be temporary. So in order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave. And
this is the union chairman, so, I mean, I guess he would know what the police wanted, right?
We're left holding the bag. It's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation that needs to be corrected so that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
He takes action. Unfortunately, these Democrat-run cities are not sufficient at tackling the problem, so President Trump is going to step in where he needs to keep these cities from being overrun by a culture of lawlessness, or in the case of LA, from being burned to the...
I'm so sorry, and it sounds like you're belittling people or you're just not letting people have autonomy, but when people complain about problems, like illegal immigration, we heard about the migrant caravans for years, maybe for decades, that they were about to overrun the country. It's like, oh no, that's real. Trust me, they were really about to overthrow it. Now we're hearing about the crime waves that are destroying cities that are like, is every single thing in America really on the verge of collapse right until Donald Trump comes in and does some arbitrary random shit and then saves the day? Really? Is that really what we're believing right now? Come on.
The ground. This president is a man of action, not simply task forces.
You lived in
LA,
and you know that those protests were in a three-block radius, and those National Guard troops sat around on their butts until they were released.
Here's the deal: 30 days to see if there's a change, and the president does have the right to do it, and we'll see if it works. It's a test period over the course of 30 days, and then we'll regroup and we'll talk about whether or not there were some good strides made here. We'll see.
He steps in, he takes action.
From someone who I won't say their name, but they're we'll just say that they're very liberal. And he says, this may sound controversial, but I'm not totally opposed to Trump's National Guard move in D.C. I know he's doing it for politics, but crime remains rampant. I've had too many friends carjacked, shot at. None of us will walk more than 3 blocks after 8 p.m. 13-year-olds are committing many of these crimes. Quite a change from a decade ago when things were much calmer. Well, that actually sounds like the D.C. that I lived in when I lived a block behind the Supreme Court. And, you know, every 3 days, one of my neighbors was getting held up at gunpoint. I mean, there has been a crime problem in D.C. And
I just need to spend more time in D.C. I need like a month there, I guess. I feel like all the areas in D.C. I've been at look like the most like gentrified, white people friendly. But I'm sure there are rough areas in D.C. It is a high crime area. Well, maybe not compared to every other place, but like there's crime there for sure. But I'm so curious where these people are living. Maybe at night it's scary. Well, not at night. Maybe late night. Maybe it's scarier. I don't know. Is it not just a typical city? Yeah, I mean, it seems like all cities have some kind of bad areas. But I mean, I lived in LA for 3 years. I didn't hang out in the worst possibility. I don't know.